Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on Stars Behind Bars. The rich and famous are different from us, especially when they end up locked down. It can mean job loss for a regular inmate, but for stars, it can actually turn into a lucrative career boost once they're released. There's no shortage of stars who end up in trouble with the law and serve time behind bars. Martha Stewart on insider trading, multi-Grammy Award winner Lauryn Hill for tax evasion, and Real Housewives of New Jersey reality star Teresa Giudice for bankruptcy fraud.
I need a girl, receive my mom's blessing.
Former Bad Boy Records star Loon, now known as Amir Muhadith, was signed to Diddy's label and made hits like I Need a Girl Part 2 before converting to Islam and doing time on a conspiracy charge. He's now an entrepreneur and humanitarian based in Dubai.
A lot of this stuff is self-inflicted, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm not here to offer any excuses other than we have abundance of opportunities, to better ourselves.
Even if you're not famous but have money, it can help ease the burdens of incarceration, says Norman Seabrook. He knows both sides. As a former correction officer union boss who did 22 months federal time on a bribery conviction, he says lockdown is better when you have money.
You're going to be treated differently because you're going to have most of the people, doing whatever you want. You're going to have people washing your clothes for you, doing your laundry for you, cleaning your cell for you, doing whatever it is because you could afford to pay for it.
The American public loves a comeback story, and there are many stories of success after incarceration. Martha Stewart became more famous and made millions once she got out, creating shows and brands with Snoop Dogg. Actor Robert Downey Jr. starred as Iron Man and became one of the highest-grossing film actors in the world after he did time for drugs and gun possession. Josh McBride is a red carpet regular who interviews and does branding deals with some of the biggest names in entertainment. He says it's a mistake to count Diddy out.
I think depending on the celebrity's charge really makes a difference as to what kind of empire and brand they can rebuild for themselves coming out of prison. I think in a case like Diddy, it's going to be a case-by-case basis.
Let's take this to our panel and see what they have to say. Joining me for his first time on TV, Norman Seabrook. He is the former president of the Correction Officers Benevolent Association here in New York City, and he was formerly incarcerated. He's currently a community activist, and he's been throughout his career a correction officer and was also very instrumental in a lot of politics in that position, trying to get as much money and benefits as he could, not only for his members, but also for workers in the city as well. Norman, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Great to have you with us. Also joining us is Josh McBride. He's an entertainment host. Yes, he's the guy you've seen across all these different TV networks and stations, including Fox 5. But he's also a brand strategist, working with some of the biggest names in the entertainment business. Josh, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Also with us is Amir Muhadith, formerly known as the hip-hop artist, Bad Boy Records recording artist. Loon had many hits back in the day, and he did some time, federal time, we're going to talk about that, changed his life around completely, and is now working as an entrepreneur and a humanitarian, basically around the world. Amir, great to have you with us again.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amir, let me ask you this. In terms of your experience, what was the hardest thing for you? Give us just a little bit of an idea of how you ended up in a federal prison. You're touring, you're pursuing your faith. How did that happen?
At the time I was living in Egypt, basically traveling and speaking to at-risk youth, Muslim and non-Muslim, because many of the youth were fascinated, my previous lifestyle, and me reverting to Islam became, an attraction to young people who are curious to understand, like, what would it take for someone to leave all those things off and pursue Islam wholeheartedly. So when I landed in Belgium at the time, I was supposed to give a talk at a prestigious university in Belgium, and I was apprehended by Interpol, and I was told that I had an indictment in the Eastern District of North Carolina in a city I had never been in. So go figure, it was some individuals that I had introduced prior to me becoming Muslim. and they went on to, engage in activities that had nothing to do with me. But because of my prior criminal history, it was very easy for, the prosecutor to, kind of forge a conspiracy, you know, utilizing my previous criminal history. I was pushed into a situation where the only daylight I would ever saw was to accept responsibility for something I didn't have I wasn't responsible for. So the only thing that was on the table was a 14-year sentence, and I took that, and by the grace of God, I was able to, come home after 9 years, really technically 2 months shy of 9 years. And from that point on, I just hit the ground running, doing everything that I was doing prior to I went to prison.
We're going to talk about that too. Josh McBride, give us an idea of who we've seen have troubles with the law like this.
Yeah, it's not, of course, not just Diddy. You have people like Robert Downey Jr., Martha Stewart, you mentioned it before, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, Tim Allen, even. And a lot of these people were able to rebuild brands after or create even new brands after they were locked up. You have someone like Tim Allen who served 2 years in a federal prison and then came out of there and became Tim the Toolman Taylor on Home Improvement. So being able to still create, maintain, create, develop a brand after it is very possible.
And a lot goes into it, but it is possible, and we've seen it happen. Norman Seabrook, before you got in trouble with the feds, you were a very powerful figure behind the scenes as well in New York City. How did you end up with this wire fraud conspiracy charge and doing federal time?
The union has an executive board, and the executive board is made up of X amount of individuals. So what we did was we expanded our executive board. We were spending approximately $250,000 extra a year of members' money. And you can't spend $250,000 of memberships money just like that. So I felt compelled to find a way to make up this loss so that it would be perfectly fine.
Let me point out that for a lot of the unions, they do. I mean, many of them have investments with a lot of Wall Street firms and with a lot of other businesses in order to generate, future pensions for their members and benefits. But go ahead, finish.
Absolutely. So these individuals come to the table and they're making a profit for us. So we were making money with the approval of the Board of Trustees, mind you. The individual that introduced me to the individuals that made the investment was a bad guy. He was a bad guy. He was a bad actor. And he got jammed up with the federal government. And he said, oh, by the way, I bribed Norman Seabrook. He never did. When you come to me and you're making a comment to me and you say, this guy can make us some money, and he's vetted. The person is actually vetted.
You have your whole board, and you have your whole board vote on it, right?
Not only did they vote on it, not only was they vetted by them, but they were vetted by the people that watch our investments. They got a perfect good rating. They were making money, but they were scamming people. And at the end of the day, he protected himself by lying on me, saying, oh, you know what, I did this for Norman.
The first trial was a hung jury, right?
That is correct.
And then the second trial, they came after you. They got a conviction. You got originally like 58 months, something like that.
That is true. Yes.
And then you were able to get out after 22 months. Are you still maintaining your innocence?
Of course I maintain my innocence. And if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have come home in 22 months. I'd still be sitting here right now. So I'm innocent.
Stay with us. There's more to come. Josh, when you go from being one of these stars, especially one of these Hollywood stars, and then you end up behind bars, are they giving up more than what like the average person would be?
Yes and no. I think the first thing is really culture shock. I mean, there used to be a show on VH1 you might all remember called The Fabulous Life of, and you saw different stars and celebrities that had everything from their own private, airplanes to airports to gold-plated toilets to assistants on speed dial. Now, culture shock would probably be the best word, and I'm sure the panel can talk to it more. From a celebrity standpoint, though, you're not getting special treatment outside of or what you may have been used to. There was jokes about Martha Stewart helping knit for other people that with the materials that she was given when she was locked up, because that's all that she was able to do and was able to be helpful to other people with. But if it was summarized, I think it would be culture shock for a lot of these folks because they don't have that access that they're so used to having.
Yeah, definitely the access. Amir, what was the toughest thing for you when you went inside? Because you had already gone through this transformation, this religious conversion. What was that like for you? Because just to remind people, and I know they know who you are, the music, the hit songs that you made. I mean, that was at a huge point of success, the early, late 90s, early 2000s for, for bad boy recording artists, for Diddy, for all the artists like yourself that were there. What was it like for you when you went inside?
I think first and foremost, because I was extremely instrumental in my family's life. I come from a very family-oriented, environment. So the main thing that impacts you the most is being away from the people you love. It definitely was an opportunity for me to actually stop, think, contemplate about everything that transpired in my life prior to me becoming Muslim, and then everything that was starting to, take place in my life as a Muslim. I was Muslim before I came to prison. So for me, it became me finding the same environment that I frequent in prior to me coming into incarceration. So having that environment, being able to embrace the brotherhood and everything that comes with being the Muslim community, it definitely shielded me from a lot of things that do transpire in prison.
With Sean Diddy Combs, Amir, you work with him closely. What do you think about, how he's dealing with this right now?
Well, the thing is, I left the music business in 2008. So a lot of the claims that, were made about him came later. The Sean Combs or the Diddy that I know, what I'm saying, it wasn't in line with these new accusations that were being made. Now, one thing I do know about him, he definitely loves his family. And I think that's every man. We make choices. What I'm saying? We may do things, we may involve ourselves in certain situations that don't really reflect who we are on a day-to-day basis. And you become defined by those choices or mistakes you may have made. But that man loved his family, you know what I'm saying? And whatever justice was handed out, I'm pretty sure he's going to accept it. And it's instinctive for, like the brother said, as a man, you walk into an environment as a man, and that's going to warrant all the respect that you need in order to, weather this, situation.
Norman, tell us the first federal prison that you were at. What is it like? Because we hear these we hear stories like literally kind of like on cots with like in a dorm style with lights. That's what they said. Diddy sleeping on at NBC, and the lights are on 22 hours a day. What was it like for you, just in terms of the physical environment?
I don't think that Diddy's sleeping like that at all. As a matter of fact, I know he's not. He's not sleeping in a dormitory on a cot somewhere with the lights on for 22 hours. That's not even possible.
Was the lawyer? That's what his lawyer said. Okay.
Well, listen, I mean, when I got to federal prison, I was in the special housing unit, because of COVID was going on during that time, and you had to be isolated for a while. But then I left from there, honestly, and I went to a camp. So in the prison system, people have to understand it varies. It's not one shoe fits all. The jail system is horrible. So the MCC or wherever Diddy is right now, look at
MCC was closed. Yeah.
Yeah, and look at Rikers Island. It's horrible. So I know he's in a horrible condition. There's no question about that. I know there's rats, there's roaches, there's bugs. I know what's going on there. And at the end of the day, what you have to do when you're in that type of an environment is try to adjust. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult when you can't take a shower when you want to, if you're in a cell facility. If you're in a dormitory, then you can do that. But he is too high profile just to be laying in a dormitory. I'm telling you, it's not happening.
When you say camp, I'm thinking like tents and freaking campfires.
No.
But like describe the camp. Like what's it like? Like eating thing.
A camp is a dormitory, if you will. They have 4.5 foot, 5 foot dividers dividing each and every person there. You know, in a camp, it's like 1 story high. You go in and you go to the left or to the right is where your group of people sleep at, for example. And yes, you can get whatever you want. You want a steak, you're going to get a steak. You want a bottle of Henny, you're going to get a bottle of Henny. You want a cell phone, you're going to get a cell phone. Whatever it is, and I'm not going to sit here and be disingenuous to you and tell you, but when you go to prison, you have a choice. You can either do your time and do what you're supposed to do and learn a lesson in it, or you can continue to participate in the same things that got you there in the first place. And there were people there, yes, Lisa, they got whatever they wanted. Yes, they did whatever they wanted to do. And that's what I think part of the problem is in the prison system, is because you're not doing anything to correct the problem. You're not giving them training. You're not giving them anything that's going to benefit them when they come out. So they come out to the same thing because when they were in there, they were still doing the same thing.
I actually had a stint at a camp as well. I've experienced, all of the hardships that come with, being in the prison system. But I will say this, them stripping the college programs is probably the greatest contributor to recidivism. You understand? Because you have guys that actually take the initiative to do a lot of programming. But if they come home and try to land a job, all of that hard work is not going to be honored. They're going to look at those little certificates that you get in the prison system. They're going to rip them up and throw them away. You know what I'm saying? So recidivism is the greatest asset to the prison system business.
Norman, final word to people going through the city jail system, getting picked up. What do you tell them to do?
I think that what's important is that people have to reinvent themselves. You have to reinvent yourself. You can't continue to do the same thing expecting a different result. Okay. And that's why I'm working with Dr. Tingling, Bill Tingling. He's developed a program for young Black and Latino men coming out of jail.
Josh, what about Diddy? What do you think? Will he be able to rebrand himself after he comes out of this on the other side?
Yeah, Lisa, look, I can't predict the future. I think there's a lot of reasons why he could. I think some time off, some time away, some time probably he wants to just spend with his family, if I had to guess also. But look, you had people like Lil Wayne, right, who was locked up in Rikers Island. I think it was 2010 for felony gun charges. And then came out and came out with the Carter 4, I think in 2011, which sold, I believe, 1 million copies in its first week, right? You had 50 Cent, who did time about 6 months for drug charges, came out and did the album Get Rich or Die Trying, and which became a cultural phenomenon. I think celebrities, I think the takeaway here is celebrities have a benefit, and being able to still have a name when they get out, whether that be name recognition is the only thing you have. Diddy might get offered a book deal from a big publisher. Joe Schmo from outside of Texas who's getting out is not going to have that same opportunity. So I think we have to look at that, and I think we have to look at the system a little bit better.
Amir, just this whole guilt by association, there's kids that are getting arrested because they are allegedly in gangs. The social media is being scoured, very, very closely by detectives. What advice would you want to leave them with now?
My advice to them would be, to stop playing with their lives. It's very important to understand that today's show was speaking about celebrities, people who are afforded an opportunity by default, a second chance by default. It's very sad to see that this has become the barometer set for young kids acquiring some form of credibility in the street that they believe will propel them into some level of stardom or some level of success that is so far-fetched from reality. These kids have a plethora of opportunities that they're not really utilizing. And I would pray that, these organizations and groups and stuff that take their roles very serious because these kids need that support. These kids really need help.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on Stars Behind Bars. You can watch it again and share it on our Fox 5 NY YouTube page and the Fox Local app. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace, love, and justice for all.